I forgot the claps, but that's okay. Sometimes we say when we do 4 claps, we're doing 4 elements. We're sort of, some people interpret it that way. But having lived in Japan, I know that they do that as a ritual. Whenever they approach a shrine or a temple, they do the 4 claps to arouse the spirits, the deities, they call them. They call them kamis, Kami. But I like this definition of basically being aware that the divine is in everything. We don't have to visualize a deity, and it's fine if you want to. But that sensei, the founder here, prayed to the sun god every morning. You know, he was very, very religious, very spiritual, and believed that there are deities in everything, sort of like Hinduism. He was a Shinto devotee, and also he was a Buddhist. Now, the beginning of learning elements is to understand that there's a yin and a yang. There are yin elements and yang elements. Or you could say solar and lunar. This little yin yang symbol is, you can see the moon is one half and the sun or the fire is the other half. So we have the heavenly yang. When we do our warm up, we go heaven yang, earth is yin. Okay. So we'll do that when we stand up. But just as an introduction, yin and yang are the foundation. Before there was two, which is yin and yang, or solar, lunar, there was one. And the Chinese called it the Tao. And in Aikido, we call it Do, the way, Aikido, okay, the way. And I guess in Vedanta, they would call it Purusha, right? There was a Purusha, and then there was the division, Prakriti from Purusha, and then you had the duality, or Shiva Shakti.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And today, actually, last night was Shiva Ratri, right? The night of Shiva. Did you stay up all night there, Sangeeta?
No, but we observe fast.
Ah,
So
good. So this is a good way of completing everything on sort of the morning after Shiva Ratri. So heavenly yang, earthly yin. So you have the yin, water and earth, or the feminine. Sometimes people say the feminine energies. And you have the yang, which are air and fire. So anything up is yang and anything down is yin. But then you have a little bit of a combination with the back and the front. So if it's going up, it's yang, but if it's going forward, it's also yang. So the fire element is considered double yang, super yang, very masculine, very active, let's say, very energetic. So active, fast, energetic, that's all yang. Strong, forceful. And then the opposite of fire is over here, water, because it's going back, which is yin, and it's going down, which is yin. So it's passive, it's non-resistant. So we value water a lot in Aikido, not resisting, being patient. But we also value fire because when it's time to act, we want to act. If we're just too yin all the time, nothing happens. Or we miss opportunities. We don't act when we should. So there's a time to act, use fire energy, and there's a time to listen, which is water energy. And then these two, the air and the earth, they're opposite each other, and they're like a combination. You can see that, right? With the air is up, but the back is yin, so it's both. And earth is the opposite, being forward, but also down, so it's both. And they're very opposite because air is very light and subtle, and earth is heavy and solid. So you get these oppositions like this. Fire is hot, water is cool. Fire is out and powerful. We use fire when we attack. When we were playing with being uke last week, the attacker, that fire energy. And when we're being defender, we use a lot of water and earth energy. We wait for the attack. We blend, that's water. And so anyway, we could play around with looking at these polarities in our lives. So this is a really good map. And in the middle, you see here is the fifth element. I put 5 elements. We won't do much with empty. It's emptiness, or I like the word space. In martial arts, they call it, or Buddhism, they call it emptiness. And in the Vedic tradition, they call it akash, which means space. It's that which holds everything together. So this whole space that these elements are occurring in are the fifth element, which is akash, or space. If you've heard of the word akashic record, okay, there's like books written about the akashic record. People who are very psychic can tune in to this knowledge or this history, this collective knowledge that's in the space akashic record, you know, the space element. Okay, so an akash is considered very pure, and then it progressively gets heavier. Air is next, then I believe fire would be next, and water, and earth is the heaviest. So it's like a hierarchy of energies. Okay, so we're going to do some gentle movement with this, some energetic stuff we know, so we can work with the elements. And I've got to make sure I get all of them in. We can, and by the end of this, I would really like it if you think about, how does this energy feel to me? Does it feel natural, or does it feel foreign? Because in my work, I work a lot with sort of like a typology, using it as a typology. And if we did another class, it would be working, say, with, say you identify as a strong water person. How do you get along with a fire person? You see, if you're a strong earth person, how do you get along with an air person? There's a lot of clashing, and Aikido is about resolving conflict, resolving our clashes. So when you discover that you're predominantly a certain element, then you understand why you don't get along with those loud, boisterous people out there, or those quiet, passive, people don't talk. They're always like, you're always trying to get them to say something. Well, they're more introvert, they're more yin, they're more over here, earth and water, you see. So the whole idea is to identify as I've said through this whole class, is where are we out of balance? It could be a center, we could talk about it in those terms. Or now with the elements, where are we lopsided? What am I lacking? What am I really strong in? Where am I talented? Where am I weak? Like that. And when we identify our strengths, then we can understand better our weaknesses. Like in this theory, and this kind of comes from Jung. Jung used the elements to create a typology. Carl Jung, great psychologist. He said that if you're a strong fire, he used the word intuition, then your repressed element would be water. That's often the case, not with everybody, but if you're an intellectual, which is more air, then you're probably lacking in groundedness, or earth. And you'll see that the principles of Aikido all kind of club nicely with the elements. Fire is energy. Water is blending. Earth is grounding. Air would be kind of like, I kind of like see it as centering, because the center goes up. It moves. Air is very movable. Air is very close to our awareness, our mind. So we can kind of use our attention and guide our attention to go up, or guide our attention to go down. So it's sort of a centering energy. Okay. So let's do a little, we'll start with earth, because it's nice to get grounded first. Earth is yin, but also has some yang to it. So let's stand. Everybody can hopefully see me okay. Maybe I should take it off. So look at this. Let's just take a moment to look at the pictures. I tried to pick images that, because I'm going to take the screen share off. Images that invoke, the color is important with the energies of the earth, this yellow and even gold color and brown, of course. So I'm going to stop my screen share. And for earth, in Aikido, we talk about weight underside. Remember that, letting everything kind of drop down. Let's just bounce a tiny bit in your heels. So get a good stance, not too wide, not too narrow, but feel like you're solid. You can kind of plant your feet and just create a little pulse in your heels and feel your arms relax down, shake a little bit if there's any tension. Can shake them out a bit. And the neck, the shoulders, the head relax. Take a deep breath in, just pause for a minute, take a breath in and come up on your toes and let it go. Take a breath in, let it go. We'll do one more like that. Take a deep breath in, drop into the heels. Okay. Now take a deep breath in and imagine you're sinking down as you extend up. And then as you bring your hands down, just kind of lift up a little bit. So bend the knees and sink down as you raise your hands to the heavens. Feel the yang energy up there and draw down. And feel the yin or the earthly solid supportive energy below. Now one more breath in. Feel how light and how more spacious we have up here in the heavens. And then as we bring the hands down, connecting to earth. Now let your head just fold forward. I'm just going to go a little ways down. Let your shoulders and arms hang heavy, heavy. I'm just going to slowly just hinge forward, let the head go. Breathe into your belly. And bend your knees, and when your fingertips touch the ground, start a new inhale. Push off the floor and slowly come up. Slowly come up and feel your chest open, head come up. Take a big breath. Come back. And remember when we did weight underside, we kind of try to walk as if your feet were rooted down. Just take a couple of steps with the feeling that your energy is all sinking downward through your hands and feet. You want to have soft eyes, so you're not looking, letting your attention go out, but staying down. Okay? So there's a little bit of forward to the down. So you're going sinking down, but there's a sense of moving a little forward. Earth has some forward direction. Gravity. Earth is very slow. It's like earth movement, except when there's an earthquake. Earth movements, changes in the earth are very slow. They call it glacial, like a glacier moves very slow. It's heavy. So feel that heavy substance of your body. Your physical body is earth, comes from the earth, returns to the earth. So there's a kind of patience. Everything is changing on the surface, but the earth is not. It's quiet, it's solid, it's holding everything. So it's that supportive yin, Mother Earth. That's why it's feminine, the mother holds you, feeds you, the food comes from the earth. Okay, so there's a kind of fixedness to earth. The negative would be a little bit stubborn, maybe. Don't want to change. So just feel, is this something you relate to in your own personality? Can you think of people you know who are like this? They're patient, they don't get upset easily, they don't like change. Let's stand in our triangle stance and do, our rowing exercise. If we were to do the rowing exercise, the emphasis would be on your feet and the movement would be slow, like you're moving through something thick. Okay, not water. Imagine if you had to row through some ground, or you were plowing through the ground to break up the earth. Feel the kind of the strength in your torso, in your hips. If you're moving through something resistant, there's a resistance to earth. It's like a passive resistance. It does have some yang. So in psychology, we call it a passive aggression, because through their stubbornness or, resisting change, there's an aggression in there, but it's a very, it's not at you, it's not coming out. So I'm going to read a few of I've changed the slide to earth power. There's a power each one has that's different. So I think I've said some of these words: solidity, density, square. Squares are very solid. Resistance, precision. People who are methodical, patient, perseverance. They're good in crises because of this. Very present. Did you notice when you were sort of just being in earth, you kind of get more present, more in the moment? Okay. So that means you're dropping out of the head, which thinks about the future. That's more forward, or the past, which is more water. But the earth is more just here. So it's really like, we call it mindfulness, don't we? But it is kind of a present centeredness. Calm, quiet, ability to wait is a patience, holding still. So people who do this kind of drudgery work, these are miners in Africa. They're digging deep into the earth. You can't have too much going on upstairs in your head to do sort of drudgery work. Farmers, they're very simple people. I like to farm. I have a 1/4 acre where I garden. That's how I get out of my head. I go out and I do just simple farmer type work, gardening, planting, dealing with dirt. This is me in our old dojo back in around 2000, before Sneha, we moved to Sofia, throwing a guy who weighs about 265 pounds. So you can kind of see the earth energy. Kind of, to throw somebody big, you have to get underneath them to get them, lighter. And then, of course, we have our little sumo guys here. Does anybody think they might be an earth predominant person? You've only got the three of you, so. No, is it an element you may feel is maybe something you need to work on?
I feel like there are days where I can be in earth
Mhm.
and the water combination. Uh,
Oh,
but today I felt like when I was working with a client, because I think maybe it's the cervical, I just was not in my body. I was in my head when I was working with them. And I constantly felt like I was giving them one after the other tasks to do, like, oh, let's try this, oh, maybe let's try this. And I
mm,
was in my thoughts and I was actually a little anxious, which usually am not during sessions. So I just felt like I was here rather than I was in my body more present with what the
yeah.
client is feeling instead of, oh, it's not working.
Yeah. So in those cases, to take a little bit of time within yourself, you may have to do it just quietly, breathing, taking some deep breaths into your hara, or and really feeling your feet connected on there. Feet and hara are the body parts for ground. Okay. Or just telling your client, I'm a little bit been a busy day or whatever. I need to take a moment to get centered. Let's do a little 1 minute meditation. You know,
Yeah,
but
that's
great.
usually, yeah.
It's good to identify where you're at, and elements kind of gives us a little map, doesn't it? Okay, so we don't have any earthy people. I think my maybe it's not my predominant, but I feel very earthy actually. So I think it could be either my predominant element or maybe my secondary element.
I feel I think with me, I feel like part of me is earth power.
Uh-huh.
Like it's like I I feel like I am a patient person, and
Uh-huh.
so I think part of me is the earth power.
Okay, good, great. Okay, let's check out water and then fire and air, and it'll be easier when you can compare and contrast. Okay, so close your eye. Actually, just check out my pictures here. The water, the color, right? The color of water. It often looks this beautiful green, greenish turquoisey. Um, it has a sense of circularity, right? Like the water cycle here. Water evaporates, then it rains, or it condenses, it comes out from the ocean, and then it rains, and then it flows back through the rivers into the ocean again. So there's this cyclicalness, and the waves, the tides, they come and they go. And this is a painting of a river returning to the sea. And there's always a kind of longing and sadness for some reason. It's sort of like returning, remembering, dreaming, right? The mind thinks melancholically maybe about better days or your childhood when everything was perfect or something. We kind of, that's water is more kind of reminiscing, it's going back. See that back and down, it's very yin. You have to be quiet to go back into your memories. Um, this symbol here, it's kind of like a yin yang. It's two fishes, one flowing up, one flowing down. I believe, Pisces is a quintessential water sign in astrology. It's the culmination of the water signs because it's all about going back to the ocean. But it's represented by two fish, one going up and one going down. The yin and the yang. Spiritual material, spiritual material. So water is it's the principle of liquidity. Anything that flows, anything liquid is the water element. Fluid, flow, connection. So we connect, being able to connect with people. It's like you create a flow with them, you know? And Aikido, connecting with energy, energetically to your attacker is really important. We call that blending. that you, even though this person is not connecting with you, you can connect with them. Like you as a therapist, Neha, you connect with, it's your job actually to connect, right? And some people, that's a big problem. They didn't get a proper attachment as a child. So you have to sort of teach them how to connect with people. I like sometimes when it gets negative, it's like a sticky feeling. You know, people who are sticky, who are clingy, they're needy. You could say needy. That's kind of a little bit negative side of water. Empathy, also conforming. The water people are like sheep. You know, they can be like, okay, I got to look out and see what everybody else is feeling, so I know the right way to feel. That's sort of a negative side. Conforming, not being an individual, not standing up for your beliefs, which is more fire. You see, so there's negatives and positives to all these elements. Circles, cycles, recycling, remembrance, imagining, dreaming. Those days when you're tired and you just meander, you can't figure out what to do. You know, maybe you're just tired and you need a day off. You're just meandering around. There's clinging. Being indirect is a big one for water. You've got those people who are really direct. They just say what they think, very bold, and can be brash and irritating as well. But the water people, they're afraid to stick their neck out. They don't want to hurt people's feelings. They're sensitive. So they can kind of indirectly, they're trying to get their needs met, that sort of. They often say we instead of I. You know, my husband is heavy water. It's always we, this. It's like, no, not we, that's you. You know, I'm always reminding him, it's you. Say I. So anyway, it's passive, it goes backwards. So, which is very good in therapy, isn't it? To go back and see, try to understand what happened to me. And then returning back, you know, after you've recovered yourself. So recovery, healing. Okay, so we're gonna just stand up and do a little movement with the water. The key area, oh yeah,
Sorry, I
sorry.
have a quick question. It mentions
Sure.
here about sacrum, low back, hips.
Yeah, I was just
Um,
gonna mention that. Uh-huh.
okay, okay.
So those are like the key body parts. If say you have trouble with water, we'll do that right now. I'll take this, stop share. Okay, I'm gonna put it on so I can see everybody. Okay, how's that? There, since it's so like ground was feet, right? Feet and, you know, sinking down in your belly. And you could say legs too for ground. But with water, you know, those hip rotations we do. So if you just let your hips rotate and let your arms be relaxed and loose. See how they, this rotation is a circular movement, isn't it? It's going and then returning, going back and then going forward. There's a fluidness in the hips. And let your whole spine, feel the base of your spine is the sacrum. And let the whole spine get a twist by looking behind. And keep your attention a little bit more around the lower spine. Okay. Now make circles, a big circle with your hip. Feel how it goes around and returns to the center. So center would be here in the front, comes back to the center, leaves and goes way around and comes back. This is such a universal, let's go the other way, a universal motion. If you study astronomy or astrology, all the planets are doing this. They're rotating, or I would say revolving around the sun, which is the center. And the sun is fire, but it's keeping everything going with its gravitational force. This motion is water or circular. Okay. And then if we let our arms also create circles, and let your hips, if you can, they can also circle while you're making your circles with your arms. If that's a little too strange, you can do one arm at a time. Feel a big circle up or spiral, and a big spiral down. And keep breathing, just feeling if your circles are different than mine, that's fine. The important thing is circularity and flow. Let's go the other way with your circle. So many circular motions in Aikido. Let's do the other side. So I'm circling up and circling down, which is basically circles making a spiral. When circles move through space, they make spirals. This is a really good thing to do for your lower back because it's making your lower back a good stretch. You want to be gentle. Okay. And go the other way. See if there's anything that is not involved. Often the head will be still. So let your head also benefit from this flowing circular movement. And slowly let your circle come to a stop. And bring your hands right out in front. We're going to stand in our triangle stance. And instead of rowing, actually, let's do a little bit of rowing, but let's do it like we're making waves. Okay? Water is a little bit on the slow side because it's yin. But of course, if something is acting on the water like gravity, like say the water is going down a mountain, then it can be very fast. But water by itself is just still, like the earth. It's quiet. It needs something outside to act on it, like the wind blowing on it. So waves are created by water, wind. Wind is creating the waves. Also earth movements, like a tsunami, or not a tsunami, what do they call it? A tidal wave. Is that a tsunami? Tidal wave. It's created by an earthquake. But left by itself, water will just sit there and be quiet, reflecting. It's reflecting. That's why they say it's compassion and empathy. Feel the flow go up and down as you move forward, as you move back. Now feel that those waves, let's say the turning of your hips, they return back and turn forward. So it's not a function so much of your feet like earth, but of your hips rotating forward, rotating back. We can change sides. So as I've got my back foot as my right foot, as it goes, it's as my right hip turns forward, my wave comes up. And as my right hip turns back, my wave goes down. So feel how the hip movement is creating this flow. Flow out, rise, flow back, down. the sense of flowing back and forth like a tide. But it's the hip that's creating it. Your arms are just going along. The water's passive. Water energy is very passive. Now let's create a circle rather than a wave, like a big water wheel. Feel it flow down the front. This is a little bit like the microcosmic orbits, Neha, but the opposite. It's going the opposite direction. Flowing out, up, down. Feel it flow out, come down. Again, you want to feel like it's your hips, your body moving that's creating the big circular water wheel. And now let's go the other way. Feel it come up the back, down the front, up the back, as if that water could come up the back of your spine, up through your sacrum, up over the top, and down the front. This is a really good exercise if you're feeling out of balance. You breathe in as it comes up, out as it goes down. And you can bend your knees as much as is comfortable when you're coming down and back. And now pause for a moment and just feel if you still feel that energy is kind of flowing in the hands. We often use imagery, water imagery, to get energy to flow, because it feels kind of like that. If you extend your hand out and imagine you're sending water, like a water hose, and the water is flowing to the other side of the room. So when we do throws in Aikido, we don't do it with our physical muscles. We extend our energy out and guide the attacker through a kind of a circular motion, figure eights, or it could be like both of our hands splitting, one going to earth, one going to heaven. Okay, so this kind of energy is really healing or balancing to your system. Okay, so remember there's also kind of a little ground to earth, to water, because it's down and it goes down and back. Because water needs a container. You could say like an earthen pot or a channel to flow through. So we need to have some sense of the water is held by something. Okay, so let me just ask you guys as you relate. So you could say that water people are emotional, very relationship oriented. They need a container to hold their emotions. They need a partner. They need people. More than the Yangi people, who are more independent and people will depend on them. Like we'll do fire next. You'll see the fire is more like a leader. People follow them. You know, they got all this fire and this, you know, ideas and plans and stuff, whereas water is the follower more, right? The more the psychic maybe, or more the intuitive, kind of a intuitive feeler. So does anybody relate to water as their time? Not at all, Sangeeta?
So I can relate to certain aspects of water, like intuitive energy, and like I know that water people can go with the flow in the situation, you know, in life. So I do feel that sometimes I do go with the flow, but then there's this fire energy or earth energy that comes up where I do get stubborn. I'm like, no, it has to be like you were late. You know, I cannot, you know, defy you, or like if I have a client being 30 minutes late for a session, that stubborn
Oh, yeah.
energy comes into me. So yeah. Um that
Sneha,
definitely.
I think that could also be fire, because fire is about the rules,
Mm,
doing the right thing.
Okay.
You're doing the right thing. You know, when we get judgmental and say, you broke the rules, or you're not doing what you should do, you know, and the rules are something that's being a leader, actually.
Mm,
The leader holds the structure together. If
right.
everybody's breaking the rules, you don't have a society. So we need
Sure.
those people. So you have your way that you run things in your psychology practice.
Right.
People can't just be willy-nilly coming whenever they feel like it. So your fire helps their water. Water meanders, it's late because it loses track of time or whatever. You see what I'm saying? So it could be
Yeah.
also earth. Earth is structure as well.
So can we switch like as a individual throughout the day? Can our personas switch? Like in the morning, I'm probably a water person. Like if I have to wake up early in the morning, I will delay because I'm not feeling it, and I will just probably uh go into another energy. But then when it's time for a client session and a client delays, then I'm like, no, you can't delay my time, but I can delay 5 minutes my alarm clock, okay, saying 5 more minutes, snooze it up. Um,
We are different sides of our personalities get triggered or get stimulated by the situation. Like you're a different person with your clients in your job than you are with your mother at home,
right.
right? Or
Yeah.
your boyfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
Different, so yes, situations, just like I think we talked about this with the centers. Like if you have to be doing your taxes, you want to be up here in your head,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you want to be helping people, you want to be in your heart. And if you want to be like getting your job done or whatever, maybe being in the belly is really good.
Mhm.
Depends on what you're doing. But, it's like we really need all of our centers. We need all of our elements.
True.
And life will stimulate, even if it's something that's not your primary energy, it'll bring it out. If you're open, see, the whole idea is to not be stuck anywhere, to be able to avail yourself of all your gifts. We all have all of the elements, like we have the 3 centers, we have the 7 chakras, we have it all.
Mm.
But we get sort of stuck in our favorite place. It's like having a favorite food. And it may be a very good food, but if you only ate that, you get unhealthy, right? So this is just to identify, maybe I have a preferred place I hang out in because I got used to it, and I'm scared now to let my fire out because I'm sort of comfy in my earthy or my water element. Or, or you're fire and you're afraid to just be quiet and listen. Fire people have a hard time listening, but that's helpful. If you find out you're overly fire, then you know that you have to work on listening more. Just be
So,
quiet.
do we have time for questions? Sorry to interrupt. Or can I ask you the question in person on the group?
Sure.
So everyone,
Yeah,
yeah,
this
okay.
could bring out a lot of questions and stuff.
Hmm.
So let's get all of our elements in so everybody knows what we're talking about with fire and air. But the power, I just made a slide about the power of each element. And the power of water is this cleansing, ability to let go, spiritual renewal. So you can see here, the baptism is the symbol of going down into the water for the Christians. And the Hindus have something exactly the same. They go into the water, right? The Ganges. And then the Chinese, water is the softest thing, yet it can penetrate mountains and earth. This shows clearly the principle of softness overcoming hardness, So it's letting go is a big deal with water. It can dissolve negativity. It's cleansing. Okay, so we ready to look at fire here? Like I said, this is like a 3-hour class condensed into one. Okay, so just check out the difference in energy and color. So the opposite of water is fire. The sun is our fire. It's a symbol of the soul. Often it's a symbol of God. The ancient Egyptians worshiped the sun. The Hindus worship the sun. Christianity is a solar religion. They worship on Sundays. You see, this is also a fire energy. It's electricity, right? Derived. The inner energy flow of the chakras. There's fire at the center of the earth that's popping out all over the place. And this is Hawaii, lava. And then we have this gentle fire, also has a gentle side. So fire is always this double-edged sword. It burns and destroys, but it also melts and cooks and digests. We have our inner fire in our stomach. So the fire breaks things down so we can extract the nourishment. So it's transformation. That's why transformation is scary to people, because it's completely can feel destructive, like your whole system is being broken down. Combustion, it's our vitality. The higher our fire is in our body, the healthier we are. But then the fire can go out of control. We can get headaches. We can get heart attacks. We can get, rashes, eye problems with too much fire. Ulcers is too much fire. But how can you turn your car on if you can't, needs a spark. It's an ignition. That's fire. It gets processes going in chemistry. We'd freeze to death without fire. Fire is our passion. It's purifying, just like water, in a different way. You burn, stuff, like, stuff you want to get rid of, like trash or whatever. You burn it. Burn impurities. They say that impurities, the sun, if the sun is a healer, you go outside and, the heat of the sun can heal us. So light, sight, we need light, which is the positive or the benefic or aspect of fire, and heat is a little more the destructive. So without the light, we can't see. You could also say insight. When we get an insight, it's like an inner illumination. That's fire. So being excited, being enthusiastic, and the negative side, maybe you're too intense, burning everybody out with your intensity. Okay, so again, it's knowing the balance, getting the balance. So it's very forward looking into the future. And the triangle stance that we do in Aikido is considered fire, because it allows us to be ready to go into action. And the body part, I consider this the chest, solar plexus, but the heart also. I didn't want to put a heart because I put a heart chakra for water, but it's more like the physical heart, the vitality. But solar plexus is good. They call it the fire chakra, right? So let's stand up for a minute and get the energy of fire. So if the center of gravity for fire, so the center of gravity in Aikido, we work on getting the center of gravity down here in our hara, the earth. Because we want to do Aikido from a balanced place. Now, if we bring our center of gravity up to our solar plexus, which is like right where the floating ribs come together, there's like that's a lot where people feel ulcers right there. So if you had a little higher and maybe even up in the middle of your chest. So imagine you're kind of up here, take instead of a deep breath into your belly, take a deep breath into your chest. Let it expand. And then when you let your breath go, keep it in your chest. And then let your arms extend out. And imagine you're sending that breath energy out in front of you. So you're not going to go down into your belly. You're going to just stay up here in your chest. Look out. God, look at all the things you have to do. And you're just breathing a little bit more shallow, kind of up in the chest. And the shoulders are getting a little bit more involved. Feel that. Shoulders and arms, things we do things, we manipulate the world and we bring things in and we do things with making things and creating and being, manipulative and telling people what to do. That's the fire energy. Leading, go there, pointing. When you find yourself doing this, you probably got fire energy going. That's not right. That's fire energy. They have a strong sense of right and wrong. They're warriors, right? You know what you're fighting for. Fighting against bad things and fighting for good things, good and evil. So they can be kind of black and white in their thinking. So can you feel that there's a lot of more intensity when you're out here? So kind of forget your back and like in water, we're kind of all down here, right? Our sacrum, and we're feeling our hips and we're flowing, we're inside. Fire is all outside. When you're water, it's all kind of like, feeling, I'm feeling this person, I'm feeling the nice thing to do, I'm feeling people, what they need. Fire is like all outside. Here's what we got to do. Okay. So if you were to imagine something you really, really, really want, but it's out there in the future, let's say it's on the other side of your room, how would you go for it if you were fire? You have to look at it, right? You have a goal. You have a goal in your head and you see it, and then you go for it with juice, with intensity, with energy. Okay, so feel how that feels. There's a kind of like, excitement. Oh my God. I know a woman, she says, every day I wake up, and she's very fiery. And I think, how can I make money today? I thought, oh my God, I never thought that when I wake up in the morning. She's excited about making money and she knows how to make money and she's got a lot of money. But that's who she is. Her energy's all lined up to making money. I can do this and I can do that. She's got all these ideas. She wakes up, but there's a goal to it. Money. I want to make money. And, I thought that was so strange. And I thought, I'm not like that at all. So I don't think, I do feel I have a lot of fiery energy, but it's not goal oriented. So what do you guys think? Can you kind of feel what I'm talking about? The excitement, the intensity. Like when I'm teaching Aikido, I get very fiery. People think I'm a fire type because I'm excited. I like it a lot. And teaching's my thing. Teaching is a fire thing. In astrology, I have Jupiter, Mercury in my 10th house, which is all about teaching. And it's in a fire sign. Huh? Well, go ahead,
Sorry.
Selena. No problem.
I was saying that, so you mean to say that anyone following their passions or are actually in their fire energy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And there are times when you see people don't know what they want to do in life and they're really lost. They're meandering because they can't get any straight line on anything. They don't have a path. You could say following a path passionately is fire. Anybody a fire type here?
I consider myself as a fire person because I have a lot of things I'm trying to accomplish in life. So I'm trying to think big, and it's like I'm using a lot of my life energy to try to accomplish these goals of mine.
So you're really goal oriented, Lauren. You have a strong goal
Uh,
orientation.
yeah, I mean, not everything in my life, but like a lot of aspects in my life, I'm goal oriented. So
Good. Okay, great.
I can vouch for that. If she wants something, it shows up in her body, like in her body language, she just goes for it. Like there's no stopping her.
That's me too.
Aha. Okay, let me ask you, fire people, something. Do you feel sometimes you get tense in your body? You have
yes,
issues with being relaxed? Yeah.
yeah,
See, yin is relaxation, right? Yeah, like in yoga. So doing yin yoga would be a good thing for a fire person, and you might hate it. It's so boring, right? Doing nothing, just laying over a bolster for 10 minutes. So that's kind of a good thing for fire people, but they hate it. But so let me get my screen here. So you can relate to this bright energy here.
Yeah.
So a lot of, go ahead, Sugita, or whoever was talking.
No, no, no. I was just agreeing to you. That's it. I wasn't saying anything.
Okay. Now, a lot of people are afraid of fire energy. Do you find people can be afraid of you? Yes?
I don't
Okay.
know.
Okay, you may have
I
more.
can sometimes, yeah.
It's usually if it's not balanced with water or earth. But I just noticed the clock, so I'm going to move on. I would really love to chat about this more, but because I find it interesting. Now that you know the elements, it's nice to get some feedback of how you relate to it. But basically, you're not going to like my next slide. It's fire power. You see what happens when fire gets out of control? And it does. We get forest fires in California, right? We get volcanic, a lot of destruction. But what comes out of a volcanic? A good new earth, new islands, rich earth. We get nuclear, that's fire, right? And war. This is all the warriors, right? Out of control warriors, out of control terrorists. So, so this is why I think some people are afraid of their own fire. They're afraid they're going to do something destructive. But we need it. We have to have the fire. It ignites everything. Without fire, there's nothing gets created. So that's why I do this. I feel it's really important we have all of our energies in balance. And it's nice. It's also very good to keep in mind how they go out of balance. Okay. So the last element is air. It's the principle of mobility, movement, seeks to even itself out, fills, spreads, and is free flowing. It's light, it's quick, it's subtle. So we have a lot of humor and playfulness with air people. They're bouncy, they're light, they're funny. They like puns. Breath, prana, life force, and the upward direction is air. So the body part is the head center, and specifically the top of the head. So this is the founder of Aikido. He says the supreme challenge of a warrior is to turn an enemy's fearful wrath into harmless laughter. Fire people like air people because it makes them laugh and lightens them up. And I think air people like the fire people because it gives them direction, because they're all over the place, ideas bouncing around and they're just all over the place. So fire focuses them. And this is an interesting little thing from Kung Fu. Remember that? I don't know, you guys are probably too. There used to be a series about Kung Fu on TV. And the master says, when you can take the pebble before I close my hand, grasshopper, that's what he called his student, grasshopper, it will be time for you to leave. So there's like this subtlety and quickness. He's so quick that, we can't even see him take the pebble. So there's a kind of invisible strength to the air people. This power of thought, the power of intention, that kind of thing. Okay, so let's get a little sense of air. And what I do, and air is, sometimes we can be too up here, too much in our air element, and we're too scattered. It's very scattering to be too much air. So rather than fight it, a good thing to do is the heaven and earthing, where you get your feet nice and planted and you extend up to the heavens. Take a deep breath, feel the top of your head open And then when you breathe out, imagine the heavenly energy coming down into your body. So feel as if you have a channel that the energy can flow up through the central channel, out the top of the head, reaching into the sky, and that energy can flow down, back into the body, centering and grounding. So the opposite of the air element is ground.
Sorry,
Air with the
SueAnn.
red.
I think you might need to stop screen share. Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry about that. Sorry. So I'm just doing our kind of opening with a little bit of visualization. So the idea is that central channel flows through our body from earth to sky, okay? And your hands can come up like this and out. In fact, let's do that. It's a little different than what we usually do. We usually go the other way. Come up the central channel, out through the top of the head. Feel the vast openness and space that air can sort of spread out in. And it can come back down. It moves everywhere. Air is outside. It's also inside. It is not contained. It's not blocked by skin or solid objects. It can flow. It's like it can flow through things like everything's impermeable, or permeable, I should say, permeable, meaning you can flow through things. When you get into the sense of air, it feels like you can sort of walk through walls or see beyond the boundaries of things. It's a really subtle and beautiful element. It's very light. So let's emphasize this upward flow. Let's kind of forget about the earth for a little bit. Now in the Aikido class in the dojo, we would actually move, and it gets a little dangerous when people get into their air because they start to dance around and fly and run because it's very quick and it's playful. So you start to want to like jump or skip. You know, it's kind of this up energy. People who are good with, say, like basketball, where they can jump so high, they have this wonderful elevation that they can do. Okay, let's just take a moment to we'll just walk. But if you're really into air, you might feel a little bit like doing something like this, you know, spinning and jumping. Okay, that's what, when I get into, that's what it feels like to me. There's a lighterness, lighthearted. And then, and if you want to just try that, in class, people would start giggling and laughing a lot, like Lauren's doing. You know, you kind of feel like you have to let go of something, like water lets go, the air also lets go. You let go of the heaviness and just play, be like a child. See? Air kind of can let go of, oh, what people will think of me. You know, that's not air. Air doesn't care. There's a kind of detachment to air. It doesn't give a crap what people think of you. So there's a letting go of convention. That's why air people can be very inventive. They think of things other people don't think of. They think outside the box. So in a sense, air is like getting out of the box of your conditioning or of your whatever, superimposed belief systems. I'm very aware that I'm going over time here, you guys. So if that's okay to go a couple more minutes, is it? Okay, I just want to make sure I have given you the complete picture of air energy. How do you feel about air, you guys? Is it something you can relate to?
I can
Yeah.
relate to it when I'm dancing. or
Ah,
I'm anxious or stressed.
oh yeah.
Especially anxiety time and dancing time, both I'm in air.
Very good. That's like the positive and the negative. Fun, having fun and being carefree, and being, the negative side is being anxious and worried. Yeah. Too much thought, too much vata. So anybody else feel, here's the power. You can see air also has a very, very intense strength. Hurricanes, tornadoes, wind power, right? Gentle, it can also be very beautiful and gentle. Without wind, that's what creates the wind and water, or air and water interacting, creating waves and rain and weather and stuff. So in the Vedic astrology that I study and I do, there's a deity called Vayu. Vayu is considered the father of Hanuman. And Hanuman is known for what? His strength. Yes. Because Vayu is the god of strength. He's the wind god. Isn't that weird? That the wind would be the strongest god? And it's because the wind represents time. Time destroys everything. Time wins over everything. So the passage of time goes with this element of Vayu energy, or wind or air. It disperses, it scatters, it dries out, it detaches. Aging is very windy. When you get older, your skin dries out, your hair gets gray and dries. Yeah, you guys probably aren't seeing it so much yet, but you start to see the skin's getting a little drier, my hair, yeah. So the wind energy gets stronger as you get older. But you also get a little more detached as you get older. You don't care as much. So you don't worry that much about what everybody thinks of you, or, it's kind of nice not to be, when you're a woman, a pretty woman, not to be looked at all the time because you're old. And some people are bummed out by that. Other people feel freed up by that. Air is the element of freedom. It's about being free. Air is free, unbounded. Okay, so you can see it's also kind of a cleansing element. It clears the dead stuff away. So people get old and die. They get cleared away so new people can come in. And there's the agitation. That's what anxiety is. It's like if there's too much air, we get agitated, we get anxious, we think too much. Okay, so then what do we need to do? We need to bring in another element to balance it. What do you think when you're feeling anxious and agitated?
Water
Let's
or
see.
earth?
Yeah, but what would really balance air?
Fire? Because you did say that, fire, like it gives it a place to focus on, and also air helps fire because it
They're like
collapses.
friends. They
So
help each other. They can egg each other on too. You add fire to air,
I've
it gets
seen that in
more
between my mom
agitated.
and my
Huh?
I've seen that in between my mom and my brother. My brother's fire energy brings out my mom's playful energy and he laughs. And you know, it's kind of that kind of banter that they have. My brother's the fire, my mom's the air.
Yeah. But it can also, fire can agitate the air more, right? Fire heats up the air and makes it move even faster.
True.
So that's a good example when things are cool and they're good and they're laughing and having a good time. But sometimes it can just shift on a dime and they're yelling at each other or something. So, but just in yourself, if you're feeling agitated and anxious, what element would soothe or calm the air?
Is it Earth?
I think so. If we look at the diagram, it's the opposite. It's like what air needs is a
Water.
ground. It needs to be anchored because it's agitated. It's floating around. It doesn't have anything to, pinning it down and making it feel safe. You know, that's a lot what anxiety is. It's not feeling safe. And earth is the safest place to be connected to when we're feeling like the world is caving in. Go to earth.
Right. Grounding.
Go to your shelter, the
Yeah.
earth mother. And you could think of that in this way too with fire and water. Water cools fire, water soothes fire. And fire excites water because water can get very passive and melancholy and depressed. Boo-hoo. And fire or air can cheer it up, get it out of its pity pot. You know, so, and we can do this for ourselves, or we have friends who will do it for us. You have your fire friend you go to when you're feeling sorry for yourself, or you stay away from that person because they'll judge you and make you feel even worse about yourself. So anyway, so there's a lot of ideas and ways to play with the combinations. And let me just take a poll before we finish. If you were to choose just today, where you are right now, which element would you choose as your dominant element? Would it be fire, air, water, or earth? What do you think, Sangeeta? And you don't have to be committed to this forever, just right now.
I think for me, it's a mixture of fire and water. Yeah, like the both. If you, I'm not able to pick one, so it would be a mix of both at the
Okay.
moment.
You relate to them both equally. Okay, great.
I think for me, it's like I would like to be a combination of all four because I believe that all four elements are really important. So I'd rather be like a mixture of all four.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's what we'd all like. But what's the reality of Lauren?
I think I'm more of a fire. I think I changed because I think like when I was younger I wasn't fire, but now I'm fire. So it
So you
changed
feel fire is your dominant.
right
Now,
now, but yeah. But I'm just saying like I think like when I was growing up I was not fire, but as I got older I'm fire.
okay. How about you, Sneha?
Well, before the class, I was in my head, and right now, I feel like I want to just sit and do some Netflix and just lay down. And that feels like probably a fire, sorry, water or earth, probably an earth.
Do you think you were here when we started and now you're down here? Somewhere earth.
Yeah,
You shifted all the way to the opposite pole.
yeah.
So that's a couple ways to look at it. You could say, I do have a dominant element, but the situation every day it could change, like what you changed in an hour from air to earth. But look and see if it's true that you do have one, like Lauren is fire now, but she wasn't as a child. Now think about it. Maybe you were fire, but you had to repress your fire because little girls shouldn't be loud, you know. Little girls should be polite and nice. You see a lot of women have a lot of repressed fire. And then they become really angry when they get older because they had to repress their excitement and their energy. They're yang, you know, they're supposed to be ladylike, especially in my generation. You got these angry old ladies now because they had to repress their fire, their yang energy when they were younger. And now women can do more, they have more choices than, say, in my generation. So anyway, there's a lot of ways you can play with this and think about it. And I just feel like I've kept you guys too long and we should close our class. But anything you want to add to our little, anything about anything, just to complete about today or about Aikido in general? You guys got
Sorry.
a tip of the iceberg. Go ahead,
Is it
Sneha.
It's true, it's just the tip of the iceberg, but I was wondering, and I hope that no one, dislikes me for what I'm about to say, but I was wondering if we could write a reflection paper
Oh,
however many pages or lines, and we could send it to you if you're open to reading it, our
oh
story,
yeah,
and how we
I'd love
felt,
to read.
and if everyone's open to writing it.
I always had my students write reflection papers. I learned
I remember.
so much. Yeah, for 30 plus years at Sophia, that would be the best feedback, and I would learn a tremendous amount of what they liked, what didn't work, what was cool, what wasn't, and it's very invaluable to hear your experience of the class.
Yeah.
And,
And
um,
I feel like I reflect when I'm reflecting back on the class, I think I learned a lot more about myself, and it starts to come a lot, like I get more understanding of what I've learned when I'm writing about it. So it really helps me, and I wanted to suggest if everyone else also wants to do it, because I'm going to do it anyway. So
Excellent. Do you all have my email?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like good grammar or anything, so don't worry about that. You give me some bullet points or write it, whatever you want to do. So
Right.
don't feel like you have to be like, it has to be, it's not going to get graded. Everybody has my email?
Yes.
Okay, great. And, feel free to write to me. I really enjoyed our class together. And